When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up.Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Hello, one and all. How are we? Ready for another show? I hope you're ready, because I am ready. I really am ready today. I feel good. I don't like to talk about myself. Hey, that's what I do every single day. But I've done 6 shows back to back. This is the last one tonight. I've already spoken to the guest, and he is going to deliver like you've never heard before. I don't want to put pressure on him, but he's going to be good. So today's guest is someone who is a confidence coach, philosopher, and passionate explorer of life. As he says on his blog, he wants to be the best that he can be in all aspects of his life and hopes to inspire us to do the same. Well, I'm sure he's going to do that today. But how does he do it? How does he strive to be the best in all aspects of his life? Well, quite simply, he studies the most successful men in the world to look for the commonalities that they all share. Martin Luther King, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Albert Einstein, Bruce Lee, to name just a few. You see, ever since his upbringing in Oakland, California, especially after puberty, he always felt like he was a step behind his peers and had to put in extra work to catch up. He was quite shy and fearful, and his insecurities showed up most clearly in social situations, especially with the ladies, and the attractive ladies too. So being in the dating world after years of analysing, observing, studying and experiencing the dynamics of attraction, he started to write about his learnings, and now he considers himself a highly conscious man and is there to teach this information to the world. So let's get him on so we can all learn from him. And of course, as always, let's start joining up dots to see how we got here. The one and only Jack Peterson. How are you today, Jack?
I'm doing great, David. Thanks for having me on the show. This is exciting.
It's exciting for me, sir, because you are a confident chap. You are somebody who... it must be one of those things when you say to somebody, I'm a confidence coach, they must go, what does that mean? Because I kind of query that. Is that just to sort of make people more confident, or is it to really get them to look inside themselves? How do you do that? How do you become a confidence coach?
Well, it was a long process of joining up the dots, and as you mentioned in the intro, it stemmed from areas of my life that I wasn't satisfied with, which was mainly my self-confidence, and in a lot of ways that was projected onto things in my reality, women, friends, like not really fitting in high school, kind of feeling like an outsider in a way. And just like in social situations, not feeling nearly as confident as I'd like to feel, more feeling anxious and doubting myself and comparing myself to other people and feeling like I'm worthless and things like that. So I'd say it was kind of the pain from the past that really kind of slingshotted me into this this path of self-discovery and self-improvement, self-development, and working on my confidence.
But how do you teach somebody to be confident?
In my sessions, I help people see and understand that everything in their reality is a reflection of them. And so whenever there's something they're not satisfied in their life, whether it's a relationship or they want a certain goal, or they're just not satisfied in any area, it's usually a reflection of them. And so I help them trace back all of these gaps or insecurities, if you will, to help them discover a deeper truth, which always leads back to them in a place within themselves that they're not satisfied with, or a blind spot they have that they're not even aware of.
I don't want to sort of come over all high and mighty, really, but but I've never had a problem with confidence. And so I always find it amazing when somebody says that, because I'm listening to you on this show now, and I'm thinking, how could he not be confident? He's come on a show like this with a complete stranger, and he's answering questions that he doesn't know what I'm going to ask him. Surely he was always confident, and you're saying if you go back in time, was there a key point in your life when you actually went, and we called it our big dot, when you really went, this is the moment when I need to make movements and take action, that you kind of remember thinking, I've got to do something here. This is not a good situation that I'm in because of my competence level?
Let's see. There's a few memories that come to mind. I'd say one of the most, there's two girls in high school. As you kind of mentioned on the intro, my biggest insecurities were kind of showed up big with women. And that was one of the areas that I really was not satisfied with. My ability to track the women I was interested in. And there was, let's see. Okay, I'll tell a quick story about this one girl in my freshman year of high school, and I was really into her, and for a few months, but I never really communicated that to her, and so in her eyes, we were just friends, and eventually I built up the courage. It took me about maybe 15 minutes to build up the courage, but I eventually opened her dorm room door and went in to try to kiss her. And she was like, "What are you doing? I thought we were just friends. Like, I think of you as a brother." And that was probably one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, and just really stuck into my head. And after that, I'd say that motivated me to try to figure out, like, first off, I thought something was wrong with me. And then just trying to figure out, like, what's really going on here? Why aren't these women I'm interested attracted to me?
What wrong was you went from 0 to 60, mate. You should have built up to that and not just sort of steamed in.
Right.
It was almost like you was like a coiled spring that once you took the action, you just twung. You should have gone in there and said, "Do you realise you probably don't, but I really like you," and see where the land lies, not just go in there and grab hold.
Exactly. And this was about 7 years ago, so it was a while ago. And you're right. I should have been honest and upfront. You know, when I started having feelings for her, I should have been upfront with what was really going on. And over many years of working on things, I've learned that the best way to deal with relationships and attraction and everything is to be upfront and be honest and be deeply truthful with what's really going on, and communicating when certain things come up, and communicating your feelings when it comes up.
But wasn't that situation just normal? We've all been in situations when there's somebody that we really liked, and we liked so strongly that we were frightened to do anything. And as adults, you kind of look back on it and you think, why didn't you just go and do this and do that or whatever? But at the time, it feels real, doesn't it? It feels a scary thing that this person's going to laugh at you or say something bad or whatever. So isn't that just normal? Not that you were suffering from lack of confidence. You were just normal.
I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the word normal. No offense, but it just it's like, what does that mean? Like, what is normal per se?
Well, like the sort of the general vibe of all of us. We all have emotions, we all have feelings, we all have these fears and insecurities. And if you parceled those up and put a label on it, just for this show, then we would say that's the normal way of life. That's how the majority of us feel.
Okay, so basically, like, we've all been there. We've all had a moment, like an embarrassing moment like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, sorry, what was the question again?
Well, was it just, quote unquote, a normal thing? It wasn't a case that you was lacking confidence. It was you were just going through what everyone else goes through, and some people have the ability to act on it, and other people don't do anything and then think, oh God, my mate's now going out with her and I missed my opportunity.
Yeah. And that's what was prior to that. That's what was going on. I never built up the courage to communicate to girls I was really into them, or whatever, ask them out on a date, or eventually like make a move on them. I had a lot of fear around that, and I would just kind of freeze in my fear. And so this was kind of actually kind of a big moment it was a very big moment for me. Was I was finally going to make a move. And in looking back on it, I see like I was doing that for myself. Like I knew I had so much resistance around, making a move on a woman in the past, that I was like, all right, I need to do this. And it really took me about 15, 20 minutes to build up the courage. But I wound up doing it.
But that you might have done it the wrong way. Looking back on it, we think, okay, really, just calm down, Jack. Just calm down.
Yeah.
But it was a good thing, wasn't it? It was that crack. It was overcoming an aspect of fear which limits so many people. And we all have these fears. We all have these fears, as we say, in the dating world. We have these fears about if we go for this job, we're not going to get it, so we don't go for it. We have these fears that we're going to quit our job and never get another job again, so let's just stay in the rubbish situation that we're in. We all have these fears on a daily basis. And you probably, you conquered, or you at least made a crack in the most emotional of the fears when you are dealing with the opposite sex at that time of your life when your emotions are all over the shop and stuff.
Yeah. And the reason, like I kind of focused on women for a while. Like I even would kind of after that, a few years after that experience, I would actually go out and really try to conquer my fear around, talking to women. And I did it for years, actually, just kind of approaching women during the day and at night, really just to I realized looking back on it now, I was doing it for myself to be able to push through that fear that was there. And basically in my life, I feel like whenever there's something I'm really afraid of, like I don't feel free. It feels like, it feels very constraining. And ultimately what I've found is what I want in my life above all else is to be myself fully and to have, the ultimate freedom. And so whenever a fear comes up, it actually attracts my attention, because it's like, oh, what is that? Like, why am I afraid of that? What's going on? Why do I contract when that comes around? So I really spent a lot of time on that to break through my own fears in that area.
Did you now believe in the logic that the fears is actually your body showing you the way to go, almost like a compass?
Yeah. I was actually at this retreat a few weeks ago, and one of the guys showed me a very useful way of looking at fear, very similar to what you just said. Is it guides you to where you need to go almost. And he actually had me grab his arm, and he had me resist it, so like try to pull it, but then he was pulling back, and so I couldn't really do much. It was just a lot of resistance. But then he said, well, what if you deal with a fear like this? And then I started pulling, and he just started going with me, and basically I was the metaphor for the fear, and then he was me, basically. So I was pulling him, and I was swinging him around the room, and I was like just taking him all around, and he would just go with it. And so that was like a metaphor for fear, is just like surrender to it, let it guide you, let it take you, and see where you end up, see where it takes you. And what I've found is that there's always something there for me. There's always a reason I'm afraid, but pretty much every time across the board, the fear itself is scarier than the actual thing.
Paper tigers.
And
have you heard of paper tigers?
Paper tigers?
Yeah.
No.
What's scarier, a tiger in your head or a tiger in a cage? I say to you, Jack, go into a cage of tigers, and you'd be quite right to go, no, I'm not doing that. But if you think about tigers, then what's the fear? And unfortunately for us, all our fears are in our head. Yeah. And they are paper tigers or thought tigers. They're never going to hurt you, but they hold you in place.
Right. Yeah. And Jim Carrey actually said something in his recent commencement speech, which I thought was brilliant. And he said very similar. Yeah, what's scarier, like a dog in your head or an actual dog? Or he said a dog that's going to eat you in your head or an actual dog that's going to eat you.
And what do you think by that? I know you laughed when you said that, and you know he's obviously a funny man, but
yeah,
that is so obviously true, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And a lot of times, I mean, the funny thing about fear is, it's when we're really afraid of something, it literally feels like facing death. And what I've learned from one of my greatest mentors is to be able to kind of build the skill and build the muscle to be able to face death, what your mind thinks is death. Because usually when you're afraid of something, the mind thinks of it actually as death. So the mind thinks of it as a dog that's going to eat you, or a lion, or going into a cage of lions. But in reality, that's not the case. I mean, unless you're actually going into a cage of lions. Usually most people don't do that. But so the mind thinks of it as, the worst case scenario, like you're going to die, a dog's going to eat you, or it's death to the mind. Whereas in reality, once you actually do the thing, once I actually go talk to that girl I'm interested in, or, 4 months ago, I did something that was pretty scary at first. I quit my job, and, on the other side of it, it's never as scary as your mind thinks that it will be.
That is the message to this episode. Anyone out there who's listening in and you're thinking of doing something, or you're thinking of asking someone out of a date or whatever, the worst you're going to get is either a no or yes, that might be great, or you might enjoy it, or whatever. You really just need to do it. And I know it's so easy to say that, because, I've been in situations when I've been rooted to the spot and I haven't done what I should be doing at that time for whatever reason. But now I totally believe that when you are scared, it is your way, it's your body's way of saying, if you take this step, you're actually growing. You're actually moving yourself out of where you are, anchored to the spot, anchored to your situation, anchored to your financial incomings, i.e. your salary, and you're giving yourself a chance to move on to a better future. And we're scared of that. We're totally scared. But you feel that ball in your stomach, and that worried feeling, and the sort of sleepless nights. And every time now that I feel that, yes, it still scares me, but that is what I action on, and I focus in on that, and I do it. And the best things in my life have happened now. I just can't believe the improvement, due to the fact that every time I'm scared, I confront it, and something amazing happens when I take that one step.
That's great, David. And one more thing about fear. There's a quote, fear is excitement without the breath. And so I like to think of...
Say that again. Fear is the excitement...
Fear without the breath. So usually when you're really afraid, you either go in a state of fight or flight, or you freeze. I think it's very common to freeze in fear. I did that. I've done that a lot in my past, just kind of freeze and just kind of sit there and just be afraid. But usually, almost always across the board, when you're afraid, your breath is very shallow, and you're certainly not breathing into... I don't know if you've done any breathing exercises or breathing practices, but
I don't practice breathing. I've been quite good at it since I was born, really.
Well, there's a lot of breathing practices, even some Eastern practices, that's all about just breathing deeply into your body and just flowing energy. And a lot of times when we're afraid, we're breathing very shallow. But if we get present and start breathing fully, like all the way down into our belly, it helps us get more present, because breathing is always in the present moment, right? And so that's why a lot of people who practice meditation, to stay in the present moment and not be thinking about the past or worrying about the future, breathing helps us come back into the present moment. And always when we're afraid, we're projecting something into the future, right? Like, oh, if there's a really attractive woman and I want to talk to her, but I'm afraid of getting rejected, like that hasn't actually happened, right? It's a projection into the future. So, another thing, like I want to quit my job, but I'm afraid of, not having income anymore. Those are all projections, like, and they're not necessarily true in that present moment. So once you come back to the present moment, and breathing is a great tool to do that. Breathe deeply all the way into your belly, for 3 minutes, or more. That brings you into the present moment, and the fear actually kind of turns on its axis, and it turns into excitement a lot of the times. And when you're afraid, you feel very alive. It's a very powerful feeling, right? You can feel it all throughout your body. So if you can think of it more as excitement, like, oh my God, like, yeah, I'd actually love to talk to that woman because she's super attractive and I would love to get to know her. Or, actually I would really love to quit my job right now because, or maybe I'll give my boss, a month's notice or something, because I actually have a lot of other dreams and goals that I want to pursue. And I have all these skills and talents that aren't being utilized at this job. And I would love to explore, other areas of life, things like that. So it can actually, I think of it, fear, when you turn on its axis, it's actually excitement.
I think you're right. I do think that you're right, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a mindset. You've got to change the way you think about these things, and just do it once, and then do it twice, and do it 3 times, and you will find that all the most successful people in the world, it doesn't matter who you're speaking to, are scared. And some of them are scared on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. I remembered hearing an article with Paul McCartney, and he said even, at the Beatles, he was terrified going out on stage. He said, once I was out there, I was all right. But every single gig before he went out there, and you think, really, you're Paul McCartney? You should just be able to walk out there and do what you need to do. But he has that fear. And Barack Obama every morning puts his suit on and thinks, right, am I going to be able to answer these questions today? Am I going to be able to do that? It's just normal. You just need to confront it. As you did, you confronted. And what I'm interested in is just jumping back, because as we said in the introduction, you strive to be the best in all aspects of your life, and you've done that by studying these top guys. When did this idea come to you that we've already sort of realised that you felt like you needed to do something about yourself personally? You also thought that your reality was down to you, so you decided to change your reality by focusing in on the successful men. Which man did you choose first?
First, I picked some, just whoever I could find at the time, because I felt like I was pretty desperate, and I honestly found this guy named David D'Angelo. That was his pen name, actually. His real name's actually Evan Pagan. He's a very good internet marketer, and he had some dating products to help you with your confidence around dating and understanding women, things like that. And then I found some other guys as well who, looking back on them, I don't consider them the greatest mentors per se, but they were good for me at the time. But it evolved as I kind of started learning from these guys and reading. I learned the value of having a mentor and, seeking out men that I want to learn from, and seeking out, people who have experienced and are embodying, what I want more of in my life, more confidence, or, I want to start my own business or things like that. And so it started me off in this path of seeking out mentors. And then I eventually started my website, Highly Conscious Man, and that's exactly what I did on there. I started interviewing men who I think would be great role models for me and for everyone listening.
How did you find them? Because reaching out to somebody, especially to bring them onto a show, is scary, and it's scary for everyone, even the rock stars out there, to ask a complete stranger to, hey, will you help me? Will you come on my show? And you are doing that at a time when your confidence was not at the highest level that it could be. So you really had to reach down deep to be able to send that email and connect with these people. How did you do that? Tell us the process.
I was very scared, and I was dealing with some self-doubts, like, well, who am I to reach out to these guys? Like, why would they be interested in, being on Jack Peterson's podcast? Like, I'm a nobody right now. Like, and so I was definitely dealing with doubts. But something deep down inside told me, like, you need to do this. Like, I don't care, if you fail or if you're nervous, like, you need to do this for yourself. This is what you really want. And worst case scenario, they can say no, or they don't respond. And that's not a big deal. Then I can ask someone else to interview.
Have you had anyone that said no to you?
Yeah.
Just a flat no.
Or like, oh, I can't do it now, but get back to me. Like, I think one guy even said, get back to me in a year. So that basically felt like a no.
Well, I would just think that's a yes, but later.
It could be, yeah. But a year later, that's a while from now.
It is, but it's not as long as 2 years, is it?
Right.
Because I've never had a no. I've had responses like you've just said. I'm really busy at the moment. My focus is on other things. Please contact me at the end of the year or whatever. I had one of those today, and I just went back to him and said, "Yep, no problem at all. Thanks very much. I'll contact you in November." And he came back and said, "Looking forward to it." Boom. And the thing that I want to get to the listeners here is what you are doing is extraordinary. Because even with the confidence level of somebody who is successful, reaching out to people who don't know you is a scary, scary process. And you have pushed through from an area that quite often you wouldn't have pushed through from. You wouldn't have seen other people doing what you're doing. Saying to people, I'm not the finished article. I have a dream that I want to do, but actually, personally, there's work that needs to be done, but I'm still going to put my head above the parapet and get an online presence and get you to talk to me on the mic, a stranger coming to me, and I'm in control. I'm asking the questions. I'm having to do the sort of spade work and stuff. That is an extraordinary thing that you did, and I don't know if you realise how much that was an effort to actually break down those things.
Yeah, and it was very scary at first. I was dealing with a lot of fear and things like that. And even like one of my biggest fears is public speaking, and it really felt like public speaking, even though it's really just talking to a computer. But it felt scary because I knew I was going to put this out to the world. So I was definitely very nervous, especially for, I'd say, the first 10 or so podcasts. I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, and I would even, so much so that I would write out everything that I wanted to say, especially the intro. I had the intro written out, and I had all my questions written out so that if I got nervous, I could still go back to the script and I could say it that way. And I did that for, I think, like the first 10 or so episodes until I gained confidence after that with the experience of pushing through those fears and realizing that, on the other side, I'm still alive. I'm still breathing, it's okay. I'm not going to die. Anyways, after about 10 or so of those episodes, then I started doing it more organically and just having conversations with the people and going off the script a lot more.
Did you have a webcam on when you're doing it?
Yes, I did.
Because as we're doing it now, we're recording over Skype, and
right.
Jack is in somewhere in America. I don't even know where you are. Where are you, Jack?
The Bay Area, California.
Right, okay, so we dislike you even more. He's out there in California. The sun is shining. I bet it's a beautiful day out there. There's beautiful women running everywhere around you. And that's the image. That's the image we're going to have, Jack. But you're out there. We're recording, and I never had the webcam on. I like it to be I like it to be a conversation. I don't like to see movement. I find it hard to actually focus on you moving around while I'm listening to you. So that's why when we record here, I don't have any webcam going on at all. And I state that because, once again, I would find that difficult to have somebody looking right back at me on a webcam.
Yeah.
If I'm already struggling with certain issues about even recording the podcast.
Right. And another thing is when you're on a webcam, you're supposed to look at the camera so that it looks like you're looking at the viewer, basically. So that's a little weird too, because you're just kind of looking at the camera the whole time. That was a challenge as well.
I think you've broken so many dots down. I'm going to play the words of Steve Jobs now, because it is important that we play it on the show. But I can see your journey already, and it's a journey that might be accelerating as you become more highly conscious, but it is a journey that can be plotted back. So these are the words of Steve Jobs, and then we'll have a quick chat afterwards.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
I tell you what I think, Mr. Peterson. I think that you're one of the rare personalities that I've had on the show that can not only connect their dots, join up their dots, but I think that you've been making your own dots as well. I think that it hasn't been a natural path for you. It's been something that you've worked at so heavily and put all your efforts in that you have actually done what he said, but you've kind of drawn in little dots in the middle. What do you think about that then?
So you're saying I created my own dots?
Yeah, I think you added stepping stones. I think where your dots might have gone off in a different direction, or maybe hadn't moved you to the path you are now, because of your efforts, because of your strong will, because of your mindset, you've actually created those dots to be able to get you into this position. I think there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't have got to where you are today because they wouldn't have had that mindset to focus on. Now, Steve Jobs is talking about trust and faith and going with the flow and seeing what's happening. I think you're slightly different. I think that you've actually created your path.
Like plan into the future?
Right from the back.
And create the dots?
Yeah, right from the back.
Yeah, let's see. I am quite a visionary. I do look into the future and come up with all kinds of ideas of things that I want to do and envision what I want. And, yeah, you are right in a way, because especially this past year or so, I've been learning a lot about manifestation, actually. I don't know if you know too much about that, but basically envisioning what I want to create in the future, envisioning the man I want to be, envisioning the reality that I want for myself, and really feeling that and feeling that as I go out into the world. And what I've seen is that things actually come to me. And this has been more and more true as I've continued on this path. Just an example is I set a goal this summer to actually start performing piano actually and singing, which once again has been one of my biggest fears is performing and singing in front of an audience. But already 3 people in the Bay Area have mentioned that they they play jazz and they'd be happy to like help me and teach me. Another example
that's brilliant, isn't it? That is another that's another dot that you are creating for yourself.
Yeah, and I set that intention a few weeks ago. I said, this summer I want to really work on my piano skills and singing skills because I've always wanted to do that. Why not start now? Why wait till later when I'm retired or whatever in the future? Let's do it now while I'm young. And yeah, I feel like I did create that dot.
Well, when you're working with your clients and you're coaching and mentoring them, are there commonalities that run through all of them? Can you see kind of younger versions of yourself so you can go, yes, I was there, I know exactly what you were feeling, or I've got a good idea, I know what you're feeling. Subsequently, I can help you because X, Y, Z. Or is it a case that you help them by planting the seeds in their mind for them to actually come up with their own answers?
Yes, you're definitely correct. I've seen just about across the board, all my clients that I've worked with have similar stories to me, or are in a similar place in life where they're stuck in one way or another with their confidence, in their relationships, and are in a very similar place that I used to be in, a few years ago, or at one point in my life I was in, and I figured out a way to get out and, live more fully and more fulfilled and really get what I wanted. So yes, you're definitely correct on that. And I feel like that's in one way or another why they're drawn to me, is because they can energetically kind of feel that I was there, or maybe they listen to my podcast and they relate to what I'm talking about, and they're curious about like how I got to where I am today and things like that. One actually woman who I've been working with, my first female client, we have very similar upbringing in a way, and kind of similar dynamic with our parents actually, and just kind of we have a lot of similarities in our whole life, our whole life story. And for that reason, I feel very capable to help her on every call with whatever comes up, because I can relate to her so much and we have so many similarities. And I feel like she's gotten the most out of the coaching experience than almost any other clients I've had, just because I feel like we have so many similarities. And I've obviously put in a ton of work to kind of move past those things in my own life, and I can share that with her, with how I did it and everything and what worked for me.
And I'll bet that you're getting something out of it as well, because I do these daily shows, and I'm having amazing motivational conversations with people time and time again. And there's some people that I think, God, you're absolutely crushing it, the amount of money you must be earning, but you then realise that they're the same as me. They're just on a different timeline. They've actually started earlier than me, or they've more talented or whatever. And I think there must be, when you're talking to these people, you must be improving yourself as well. It's actually coaching for you, because the conversations are so deep that when you are helping them along, there must be moments that you go, I know I just said that, but that's kind of the first time I've ever really thought that myself. It's almost like my subconscious working, and I'm now reflecting on what I've just said.
Yeah, and they say, like, if you really want to learn something well, teach it. And so that's kind of what we're doing on my calls. I teach what I've learned, and I give my all the things that I've learned along my journey, and share that with her, and help her apply it to her life. And in the process, I am learning, and I am kind of remembering things from the past, and kind of reintegrating that into myself, like moment to moment, as we're discussing. And a lot of times out in the world, in normal conversations, I don't talk about this stuff and all the progress I've made and how I did it and things like that. So it is it is a really effective way to learn more deeply what I've experienced in my own life.
When you look back at your life, was the reality, and I know we started with that the reality is down to us, but as a small child, you are kind of programmed by your situation. You're programmed by what people say to you. So when you're really small, the reality isn't really down to you. It's what you're living, and you're a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and you're running around and doing what you need to do.
Right.
Do you think that your situation was brought on by your real younger self, and you extended that to become the person that you were at teenage years when you started to sort of decide that you needed to do something about that? Or was it something that took you by surprise later on?
Let's see. So when I was younger, when I was a kid, I'll talk about this is pretty recently, like in the past month or so, I realized through some, just recently, just kind of connecting the dots actually in the past few months, even what certain things people have said to me, I came to realize that I lost the playful side in me, kind of the child within me, the part of me that plays and is very creative and imaginative and just wants to have fun. To a large degree, I kind of disconnected from that part of me in the past 5 to 10 years. And I realized just because I was so focused on schoolwork and homework and work and making money and all this kind of masculine type energy. And so recently I've been kind of connecting back to play, and I've actually, to kind of challenge myself, because I like to do that, I'm doing 30 days of play. So every day I'm doing something that is fun, that is creative, that opens up my imagination and is just really enjoyable. And so I've been doing a lot of things to kind of reconnect back to my child, kind of the child within me. And I'm seeing that I'm really connecting to energy. Like I'm feeling like a kid again, understandably, but I'm feeling the value of that creative flow. And I'm also expressing that with my piano playing and singing. And it's just really making life feel more magical and more creative. And there's so much more just like juice to life, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Because the tagline to this show is connecting our past by building our future. And by looking back at your early version of yourself, to a man and a woman, and I've asked this question so many times, but if you're a writer, I go, did you used to write I used to write when I was 5 or 6 years old, but then I went into a job and I stopped writing, and then I came back to it. Or, I used to play the piano when I was a kid, and then for some reason it wasn't cool, so I stopped playing the piano. And it almost seems that our true unique path, the thing that we should be doing in life, the thing that we do naturally well, that provides value to people, we enjoy, is easy, and puts us in a state of flow so that hours will pass, are the things that we used to do when we were little, and then we stopped doing them. And I saw a thing the other day, or somebody told me, and it comes back to your playful side, or losing the playful side. Apparently, if you analyse like 5-year-olds, they laugh 34 times a day or something. If you analyse 34-year-olds, they laugh twice a day. And it's true. I don't often laugh. It's not that I'm not happy. It's just that you do lose that playful element. And if we can tap back into that, as you're doing, you really do find the place that you can start moving on to a better future.
Yeah. Yeah, well, David, I recommend you... if you're up for it, I recommend you try skipping. Try.
Do you know? I wasn't expecting you to say that.
I know. Yeah, I did it the other day, and
With
for
a
one of my
rope?
videos.
With a rope, or just kind of like skipping?
If you want, with a rope, or just skipping on the sidewalk, or even just in your backyard. Like try skipping, and you'll see like you can't not like feel like a kid and like smile. It's interesting. It really brings you back to your childhood. Some other things I've done. Let's see. Simply singing, just singing funny songs or just songs that you enjoy. Whistling. So if you're like walking down the street, just whistle. And let's see, playing piano. And then yesterday I did something that was definitely pushing my edge in terms of kind of facing a fear. When I was a child, I always used to love to do like pranks, and I thought it was really fun and just like kind of challenging and adventurous. So yesterday I came up with the idea to do something funny and try to make someone's day. And I actually went to the local Whole Foods grocery store, and I went up to a woman and I proposed to her. And I had my buddy record it, and it was really funny because she had a sense of humor, and she was going along with it and just like having fun with it. And I totally made her smile, and then I hugged her afterwards, and it was great.
Would it have been great if she'd said to you, Jack, you don't remember, but you tried to kiss me all those years ago, and it was the same woman? Wouldn't that have been amazing? That would have been a joining dots that you'd remember for the rest of your life.
Yeah, maybe we would have gotten married. Yeah, I don't know.
So when you walked up to this woman, and I'm going to sort of bring you to the end of the show now, but when you walked up to them, was there a sort of realization in your head that really this is getting a little bit weird? You know, I'm breaking down areas of limitation and restraint that, and I'm going to use this word again, and you're not going to like it, that normal people wouldn't do. You know, I've never known anyone to walk up to a complete stranger and propose to them. So
right.
It's almost like you're taking it to a level that is a bit crazy, isn't it? It's good because it really does push you out your comfort zones, and you are going to go on to bigger and better things. But that's a weird way of doing it, or in my head. You're perfectly in your right to say no. It's absolutely what I should be doing, and I'm not stating anything in the contrary. But that was a bit weird, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I felt, my friend and I were kind of walking around, and we talked about it before, and I even told him like I'm nervous right now, like this feels kind of strange, understandably. So I was basically feeling my own boundaries and my own conditioning, because from my perception, I believe truly we are limitless, and we don't have boundaries. The only boundaries we have created for ourselves, whether it's society, or I was even talking to my friend at the grocery store. Like at this grocery store, there's a culture right now of, everyone's just buying food here, and there's not going to be anything out of the ordinary, and there's not going to be like a huge party right now. Everyone's just kind of minding their own business and things like that. There's almost a culture to this atmosphere right now. And basically what I was doing is I was going in there and creating my own atmosphere and really feeling limitless. Like I can do anything I want right now. There's no one that can tell me that I can't, unless, I don't know, there's a police officer or something. But even still, just really feeling my own limitless potential, and realizing that I can, if I choose to, I can truly be free, and I can do whatever I want in this moment. And I wanted to push that boundary because I did feel my boundaries. That's why I was getting nervous. That's why I was afraid. I was feeling it all throughout my body. I felt it we've all felt it many times before. But I was like, you know what? I don't have to fall prey to these boundaries. I don't have to be jailed by these boundaries. I can truly, be limitless. And so that's kind of what was my challenge. And, you know, it felt fun to me. And I felt like I also kind of made that woman's day. I felt, you know, she'll probably remember that for a long time. And I made her smile and we hugged, and, you know, it was fun. So that was kind of my intention.
I'm proud of you, Jack.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of you. I've only met you tonight, but I can see that the journey that you've been on, as I said earlier, is one of effort and commitment. And I'm convinced that you're going to go on to bigger and bigger things, and probably propose to somebody in a supermarket again. And she'll say yes to you, and then you won't be able to back out of it. And you think, oh my God, what have I done? What would you have done if she did she actually say yes?
I had this little box, and she said she wanted to see the ring, and I opened it up and there wasn't a ring inside. So
you cheapskate, Jack Peterson.
I got to remember to bring a ring next time.
Yeah, absolutely. No.
Yeah.
So this is the end of the show, and this is the bit when I want to send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. We call it a sermon on the mic, but if you did go back in time, what advice would you give the younger Jack? And what age would you choose? Would you choose the 5-year-old, the 11-year-old, or maybe the Jack who was just waiting outside that girl's door to go in and chance his arm? So I'm going to play the music, and when it finishes, you're on. This is the sermon on the mic. Ooh,
here we go with the best bit of the show, the sermon on the mic. The sermon on the mic.
What I would say to the younger Jack, I would go back to younger Jack in the 6th grade, and I would tell him that it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to it's okay to have self-doubts. It's okay. Just accept that you're afraid of the outside environment, and once you accept that, you can fully feel that and dissolve it and get to the other side. And once you get to the other side of your fear, I encourage you to listen to the voice within you above all else, and trust that voice. And one of my favorite quotes is, follow your bliss. And really, really follow the feeling inside yourself that guides you, the feeling that you often feel in your gut, and follow that feeling above all else, and it will never lead you wrong. And trust the guidance within you.
So, Jack, how can people connect with you?
People can connect with me on Facebook. I'm very active on Facebook. I post I've been posting these videos of play every day for the past 10 days of me doing silly things and connecting to my inner child again. So connect with me on Facebook. Just search for Jack Peterson. You can also connect with me through my website, which is called Highly Conscious Man. And you can connect with me on the contact page there, or you can type your email in the opt-in, and it'll automatically send you my free ebook called The Guide to Greatness. And it talks a lot about, in this book, a lot of what we talked about on this podcast is how to understand, fears and things that hold you back, and understand your ego and conditioning of kind of things you've learned that are holding you back from being your fullest self out in the world and really living and accomplishing your dreams and your goals. And the book really covers that quite thoroughly. So I urge you to visit there. I also have a lot of past articles that I've written and interviews with a lot of amazing people who I feel are great role models to look up to.
Well, we'll put all those on the show notes so people can go over to your site and have a look around. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I believe the only way to build our futures is by connecting our pasts. Jack Peterson, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David. This is a lot of fun.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice That Every Successful Entrepreneur Practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.